everybody, I'm back with another YouTube video. Now in today's video, guys, I'm going to be doing a video that I'm very excited for, since these two games are just so enjoyable and very similar at their core idea, but so different on the outside, you know. And I think that these two games definitely deserve to be versed on, because judging by some of the F13 versus Dead by Daylight versus videos that I've seen out there, most of them are old, like in 2017, and I think a little bit inaccurate, especially as the years have gone and these two games have changed. Obviously, F13 hasn't really got the big opportunity to change a lot because of the lawsuit going on, but still, there's been a lot of change in between these two games, and I think it's important to revise them while we have the time, and yeah, just to make a more accurate video. So I don't really have any announcements today because, well, there's no other really planned videos besides the Ghost Debunk videos. So just stay tuned for that, and if any changes pop up, I will tell you in my streams. So go on to the streams to find out the new updates, and I'll surely inform you there quite a bit. So I try to keep you guys informed as best as possible, especially with everything going on. With all that being said, I want to get in and start talking about these games already. So let's talk about the backstory of the games first of all. Basically, what the games are all about. So starting with F13, Friday the 13th is a game that involves one killer, or Jason as they call it, and there's a different variety of Jasons that you have. At least 9 playable Jasons, depending on how early you came into the game. Because if you got the Kickstarter pack, you could have got Savini Jason. Otherwise, unless you're game sharing, you can't get Savini Jason anymore. So there are 8 playable Jasons, which is respectable because you can customize them as levels go by with bloody skins, and you can put on kills for them, which is very nice, and we'll get into that. And then there are 7 counselors that come along. So when you play the game, basically Jason has to try to kill all the counselors, and the counselors have to try to escape in a variety of different ways. They can escape with the cops, they can escape with the car, the boat, or they can just survive the night, which is a pretty good feeling when you survive the night, because you just feel so satisfied that you were able to overcome a powerful killer, you know? So overall, playing this game over a while, I think I've gotten a little bit bored with just the same thing that happens every time, you know. You play and it's just the same strategy over and over again. And I'm going to say this so many times in this video. I'm going to say the word variety so many different times because I think variety is so important in between these two games, and they both have their fair share of variety. Obviously, F13 has its fair share of variety and kills. But back to talking about the games. So yeah, the killer has a fair share of its kills that he can kill his survivors with, or sorry, counselors, as the game calls it. And the counselors have their variety of defense systems, like firecrackers, and they also have pocket knives to escape out of their grabs. And they also have med sprays so that they can heal themselves up. So overall, it's a pretty fun game, especially starting off. I remember being so scared when I was being chased after Jason, and playing Jason was just so fun, even though you would get destroyed sometimes as a noob. But now, obviously, I'm a pro at the game, so, you know, you still get your fair share of level 150s that you can compete against, and it's very fun to compete against 150s because you really have your heart pumping in that game, and you really want to win. You have such a desire to win, you know. So now on to Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight definitely has a longer backstory behind it because it has, obviously, the archives that will talk about every single survivor in the game. There is so much backstory in Dead by Daylight. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I really love it. I love how Dead by Daylight has its backstory behind each character. As for Friday the 13th, the characters are just thrown in as made-up characters and not, you know, the real names of the characters. But we can assume where they got some of the counselors' ideas from. Like, for example, Victoria Sterling was one of the blonde girl in Part 7, but they just didn't want to name them by their real names. But the thing that I like about Dead by Daylight is that they have a backstory behind the a backstory behind these survivors, and that way you get to know more about them. And it's very fun when you're bored to, you know, just look at the backstory of some of the survivors. That way you have more of a development between them. And yeah, it's just very, very fun. Just already talking about the backstory is just very awesome behind Dead by Daylight. But basically, it involves one killer and 4 survivors, and the killer has to not necessarily kill the survivors, but sacrifice them to an entity that put the killer and the survivors in this trial. But the killer can kill the survivors, but he only has one option, the same kill that he'll do every time. So depending on the perks that you have, you can kill survivors quite a bit, especially with that Ebony Mori. I already showed you that in the stream. It was so toxic. But it's the same kill every time. There's no different kills between the individual killer, but every killer has their unique kill, which is pretty cool. And you don't see kills play out a lot in Dead by Daylight because it's meant to sacrifice for the entity and not kill by yourself. The entity wants the survivors. It doesn't really want you killing all the survivors by hand. So that's kind of the purpose there. And personally, I like the idea of having Friday the 13th just kill off the counselors instead of having to hook them 3 times. It doesn't make sense to me. And sometimes the killers just feel really, really weak, especially getting hit by pallets or stuff like that, or having a flashlight shine to them. Sometimes the killers feel really, really weak at their core, but obviously are very strong depending on how you play them. But I really do enjoy Dead by Daylight nonetheless. There's just so much variety when it comes to playing the game. There's so many different perks you can use for killer and survivor, and there are so many killers and survivors to choose from. And that is what I love about Dead by Daylight. I think that is one big thing that Dead by Daylight has over Friday the 13th is the fact that there is so much variety of killers and survivors to choose from that everybody can get their own main that they can choose from and enjoy. As for Friday the 13th, yeah, you still have a pretty good variety, right? But I think the fact that Dead by Daylight offers more and more and more to choose from is just really, really great. So you can really find that killer or that survivor that really sticks with you and your strategy. And there's so many different strategies that you can go by in Dead by Daylight. And also Friday the 13th too. Like a lot of newbies in Dead by Daylight, it's kind of annoying to get camped by them, obviously. That's a very horrible strategy to get by. And I'm just going to get this out of my head real quick. One thing that I really love about Friday the 13th is you don't get trash talked on. If you camp in Dead by Daylight, oh, you better bet that you're going to get added into a group by somebody who's mad at you. And it's not fun to have an argument with them. And that is exactly why I disabled my comments from strangers, and I can only get comments from friends unless I allow the stranger to comment on my group or whatever. So that's one thing that I could get out of there. But with all the backstories of the games being talked about, I'm sure most of my viewers already know what the games have to offer, especially after watching the gameplays so many times. Let's talk about like different things about these 2 games that I'd like to talk about. So starting off with the base game itself, like when you're in game, there's 5 different things that I want to talk about. First of all, variety. So let's start off with Dead by Daylight. Obviously, Dead by Daylight has a ton of freaking maps to come from, and the maps themselves have their own little varieties. Let's take the Macmillian Estate, for example. It has at least, I don't know, 4 or 5 different Macmillian Estates that you can choose from. Maybe I'm wrong, but no more than 5, I know. So the maps obviously have a lot of variety. I love that Dead by Daylight has a variety of maps, so you can have different styles being played. And it also has a variety of perks to offer for the survivors and the killers, and I really love that too. The only downfall is that there's just not a lot of variety for survivors' way to escape, and there's not a lot of variety for kills for the killer. You know, obviously his main idea is to sacrifice them and not kill them, and when he does kill them, it's the same kill every time. which is pretty cool to see nonetheless, but it just kind of gets repetitive and I don't like it, especially if you're... The only reason people do the Ebony Mori is to get a match done really quick and just to be toxic, that's all. But other than that, Dead by Daylight has so much variety, and that's what I love about it. And like I said, I'm going to say variety so much in this video. Number 2 is... I should talk about variety for F13 too as well. F13 has, a pretty well-developed variety for maps. And I don't personally care that F13 only has like 8 maps to choose from, because it's very fun to play on the maps. Anyways, all the maps are pretty well developed and have some, cool stuff to look at, like Easter eggs. In fact, I just threw in a bonus one there, Easter eggs. Dead by Daylight doesn't really have a lot of Easter eggs, and the thing I like about F13 is to explore the Easter eggs at the beginning of the game. That's very fun to do. There's just, when you first start out the game, there's lots of things you can learn when playing F13, like how to kill the killer, how to kill Jason, where the Easter eggs are, and just lots of other cool stuff to learn from. Whereas Dead by Daylight, there's just not a lot to learn from at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, it's just pretty straightforward, and I just like that F13 has that variety and that aspect of learning as you go, I don't think I've learned a lot more from F13 than I did from Dead by Daylight as I went on. So everything it's low on variety for, obviously compared to Dead by Daylight, F13 is low on variety for killers, aka Jason's, maps, and also counselors. Although there is about, 15 counselors, so it's not that bad, plus Tommy Jarvis. So it's really, really not that bad compared to Dead by Daylight in terms of survivors and counselors. But in terms of killers, it's a big difference. You almost have 20 killers in Dead by Daylight. Nearly 20 killers, just one away. We have 19 killers currently in Dead by Daylight, and you better bet more are going to come. And hopefully more will come when F13 finally gets this lawsuit off their hands, because I really want to see Jason X come in here. It would just be so fun to see Jason X, see how he plays out. Hopefully coming soon, But I think the one thing that Friday the 13th steps up against Dead by Daylight in terms of variety is kills. There are so many cool kills to choose from when playing as killers. It's so fun to see those different kills. Every time I watch the kills, I never get bored of it. Even the officiating kill is just fun to watch, especially the background music that they have for it. And I will say a very deep similarity between these two games is that they have their fair share of background music for the killers, which I really, really like. Every killer has their own distinct background music, and I really love that, because when you get close to them, it just signifies who it is automatically, and it just jump scares you, and I really, really love how it does that. Next is how well balanced. I know people who know Dead by Daylight very well in F13 know that obviously Dead by Daylight is not that balanced. They're really, really, really trying to balance the killer and the survivor. There are so many, it's so unbalanced. Every map because there's so many maps to play from, it's so uneven each time. You can't find the perfect map. It's either a survivor map or a killer map, and that's what I really hate. On terms of F13 though, all maps are pretty well balanced except for Pinehurst, I would say. Pinehurst is too big for counselors to deal with, and I think they definitely need to maybe look into balancing that one a little bit more, because everything's just too far spread out for counselors. But still, F13 is balanced very, very well. And that's what I really like, is how it's balanced. So you're not going back and forth thinking, oh, I just want to play counselor. Oh no, I just want to play Jason, because that's basically what you're dealing with in Dead by Daylight. You're either having a survivor day, or you're having a killer day. And I just hate how it's unbalanced sometimes. It's always unbalanced. Why should I say sometimes? It's always unbalanced. It's either or, and I hate how Dead by Daylight they're trying to fix it. It's gotten better, but there are still some things that I really hate that Dead by Daylight is purposely keeping in there, especially camping. I don't know why Dead by Daylight is still letting camping happen. It just does not make sense to me. They say it's a strategy that we should allow happen, but no, it's just not fair for survivors, and they definitely need to fix those loops too. Although there are loops, you could argue there are loops in F13 too, but they're not ridiculously like unlimited loops. Like there are ways to stop them, like break the windows or put a trap by there, which would be weird, but you know, whatever. Number 3 is how enjoyable. And I have to be even with these two. I mean, I enjoy Dead by Daylight and F13 every time I play with them. And I think the reason why I enjoy these two games so much is because you have those moments of suspense in the game. Like, let's say for Dead by Daylight, for example, you're the last survivor, you're looking for that hatch, and there's so much suspense build up because you want to find that hatch before the killer does. And if he closes it, you better hope that you're going to open that gate just in time to escape. And my heart pumps every time I do that. And it's the same aspect of playing as killer. And then as for F13, I mean, you have so much suspense building up when, you know, the killer or Jason is after you deliberately, and it's like 2 minutes remain, and you are just begging to survive, jumping through those windows as quick as you can. Your heart is just pumping so fast. And then when you're playing as Jason, you're shifting so hard, and you're just really hoping to grab him. There's so much suspense build up in both of the games. I never have lost that scary suspense in both of the games. I still get scared, and I will admit, I still get scared in both of these games because their suspense is just so great. I can't get enough of their end game suspenses. It's just so awesome. So overall, both of the games are evenly enjoyable. I like to play them every once in a while. Like, I like to play Dead by Daylight for a while, and then I like to get back to F13 or whatever, you know. Another one I threw in there was backstory. Obviously, I already talked about that. Dead by Daylight has its better backstory. And then Easter eggs. Obviously, we'll go to F13 for throwing in some pretty cool Easter eggs in there, like H2O Delirious. I will never forget that one. So now let's start talking about killers and Jasons. So obviously, I already talked about the first one I put up there was variety of kills. F13 has a way bigger variety of kills than Dead by Daylight does. Obviously, each killer only has one kill to choose from besides sacrificing them, which is not so fun, you know. But it's pretty cool to hunt them down, I guess. The next one I put is a variety of side tools. So in F13, you have throwing knives and you have traps, which are very, very useful tools. Traps are a great defense system to avoid counselors from doing an action unless they have pocket knives or they have a med spray that they can quickly heal themselves from. And throwing knives are just really cool to kind of break a chase. And I think that's something that Dead by Daylight definitely needs, is something, a little side tool that can help with looping, because like throwing knives are just so useful sometimes when you're chasing somebody forever, and it's about the only thing you got, so you just swing it in there for a last resort or something like that. It can be so useful to break chases after somebody looping you for a while, and I think that's something that Dead by Daylight needs. But in terms of Dead by Daylight, they have side tools that are, I would basically call powers, which are very unique in between each individual killer. And I love how Dead by Daylight has powers. It's very cool. Like, you have the traps, the bear traps for the trapper, the wailing bell for the wraith. Just a lot of different variety of side tools. And overall, I would say that Dead by Daylight has a little bit of edge with having that side tool power. Even though that I like the fact that F13 keeps it balanced with having side tools that can be so beneficial for defense against counselors. I would say Dead by Daylight just has a little bit of an edge over there because powers are just so fun to mess with. And I think powers are ultimately what makes a killer good or what makes a killer really, really bad. So everybody likes their killer because of their power, really. How well they can use that power, and how fun it is to play with it. Like, I don't like the Deathslinger in Dead by Daylight, but he's so fun to play as because of his power, you know? And I think that's just what kind of redeems himself for him. So yeah, that's, side tools. That's really all I need to talk about for killers. Yeah, I think the killers in the game are pretty well balanced between Jasons and killers. Not that bad. But when you get to survivors and counselors, it's a whole different story. It's a whole different story. So let's talk about variety of escape. Obviously, F13 overrules Dead by Daylight in that Dead by Daylight only has two ways of escaping. You can either escape the exit gates or you can escape through the hatch. There's no surviving the night. You have to escape somehow, otherwise you will be sacrificed by the entity at some point in time. But as for F13, you can escape by the boat, you can escape by the car, you can escape by the cops, or you can survive the whole night. There's just so many different ways that you can choose from, and I think that's really, really cool, to have there. Like, let's say you want to escape through the car, that fails, and then Jason's chasing after those people. You're like, oh, well, my next step, I'll just go for the boat or something like that. Why not? And I really like how it does that. As for Dead by Daylight, you're kind of just like, okay, we got to get these gens done, guys, so that we can open the exit gates. And then 3 people are sacrificed, and you're like, oh, hatch, hatch, hatch. Oh, and then it's closed, and it's back to the exit gates. And I just hate how it does that. It doesn't give you a lot of opportunity to escape from. But I'm not going to complain too much on that aspect. I don't really care that much in terms of escaping, that, although I really do like that F13 has more variety over escaping. It doesn't matter much to me on this one, but whatever. Number 2 I put on there was defense. So in Dead by Daylight, obviously you have pallets and you have flashlights, you have firecrackers, lots of defense systems that you can choose from that are so fun to use on killers unexpectedly. It's so toxic to just shine the flashlight in their face while they're like trying to hook a survivor, and then they bounce out of the grab. It's so toxic to do that. Or drop a pallet on them, loop them around a pallet until you finally drop it. So I think survivors have pretty good defense in the game, but I think Friday the 13th has cooler defense. When you can hit them with weapons, it's so fun. Like, you can juke them, and then you can just hit them with that baseball bat, or you can shoot them with a shotgun. And I think the thing that Friday the 13th has an advantage over in terms of defense is the fact that having defense as a counselor in F13 is so important in terms of trying to escape. In terms of trying to use defense for Dead by Daylight, it's more important for trying to survive in the first place. And which is okay, but like, it just kind of defeats the purpose of it. You wanted to help yourself and also help you escape at the same time. Like, shotguns in F13 are so critical to know when to use them. Let's say you and your buddies want to escape through the car. Jason has the engine stopped. You got to learn how to use that shotgun at the right time so that you can start that engine and you can fire off to that escape. And I think that's something that's such a well-built strategy of thinking to try to do when you're playing F13. As for Dead by Daylight, it's kind of like, okay, use this flashlight, get him out of the grab. I just don't like how that is. Or loop him around a pallet a billion times until you finally drop it on him. Like, it's just not as much, it's just more straightforward in Dead by Daylight. It's more complex when it comes to defense systems in F13, Another one that I threw in there, probably the last thing I'm going to talk about, is communication. I've heard a lot of people complain about how you can't talk on game chat in Dead by Daylight. I have no problem with that. Just invite a couple of friends to a party, and then you can talk with them. You don't need a lot of communication in Dead by Daylight. I think sometimes people are pretty well understanding, but I'm not going to complain too much about communication. Obviously, you can use game chat in F13, and it's very fun to communicate with counselors and tell them what to do, because sometimes people are pretty stupid in F13, and it's pretty useful to be able to use that mic and tell them what to do, or be funny as a killer and be kind of like a narrator over the counselors and scare them and all that. It's pretty fun. I'm not going to complain too much on communication. I think it's unnecessary to put communication for Dead by Daylight, but pretty necessary to put communication for F13. So that's all I really have to talk about today, and I actually, believe it or not, shot this video all in one shoot. I didn't need to take any clips or anything. I just had a little note right here to help me talk about what we were going to talk about today. Now, I'm not going to say which one I like better because I honestly don't know what to choose from. Sometimes I'm like, just go for F13. You know you love to play that game so much. And then it's like Dead by Daylight because it's just so fun to play at some points, and then F13 is so fun to play at some points. It's just so hard to decipher between which one you like more. So what do you guys think? Tell me which game you think is better in the comments section. And I will see you in the next video, which will be the Ghost Debunk video. And I will throw in another stream tonight, but I'm also probably going to end the stream near 10 o'clock because I'm going to watch Halloween 4 tonight. I watched Halloween 3 yesterday. Oh boy, it was very, very fun to watch. And I'm excited to make another ranking on the Halloween films when the Halloween Kills movie comes out in October. At least I hope it comes out in October, especially with everything going on. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all for stopping by and watching this video. I know you guys were so excited for this, and tell me what you think in the comment section down below. Like and subscribe, guys, and as always, I will see you next time.